I want you to imagine a highly specific, deeply anticipated scenario. You know the kind I mean.
Oh, absolutely. The kind you plan for weeks.
Right, exactly. So you have just dropped a really significant amount of money for a premium resort stay,
A splurge.
a total splurge, and you've curated your Friday evening perfectly. The entire goal is just this quiet, solitary night soaking in a rooftop hot tub under the stars.
Sounds incredible, honestly.
Right. You settle in, the water is perfectly warm, you have a drink in your hand, and you can, like, physically feel your shoulders finally dropping away from your ears.
The ultimate unwinding.
Yeah. But then the heavy glass door to the patio swings open, and a group of 40 children swarms the pool area.
Oh, wow. 40.
40!
Right.
And they aren't just, splashing in the shallow end across the deck. They're steadily filing into your specific hot tub, like 2 by 2.
Oh, no. That's a nightmare.
Within minutes, they're diving under the water, splashing vigorously, and literally physically bumping into your shoulders.
So the physical sensation of relaxation just, well, it completely evaporates. It's an immediate, visceral transition from luxury to absolute chaos.
Exactly. And the thing is, this isn't a hypothetical situation.
Wait, really?
Yeah, this exact sequence of events happened on May 26th, 2026. It happened to a 33-year-old TikTok creator named Jessica Jean.
Okay.
So she abandoned the hot tub, retreated to her hotel room in tears, and just 9 minutes later, she pulled out her phone to post a video about the experience.
Because that's what you do in 2026, right? You post through it.
You post through it. But by doing so, she accidentally crowned herself the main character of the internet for the week. That single video racked up 3.7 million views.
That is massive.
It's huge, and it triggered this tidal wave of online vitriol that was honestly genuinely shocking to witness.
Which is wild because when you look at the raw facts of the event, I mean, it's basically just a frustrated hotel guest leaving a pool. The sheer scale and ferocity of the digital reaction makes absolutely no sense.
None at all.
But, that disproportionate response is exactly what makes this such a vital sociological flashpoint.
Which is exactly why we're unpacking it today on this deep dive. Because
Right.
when this video went viral, it didn't just stay confined to, TikTok drama channels.
Right, it spilled over.
It triggered this massive, sprawling debate. It spilled over into academic sociology, into European urban planning policies, and the rapidly growing child-free movement.
So we're really zooming out today.
We are. We're pulling from a stack of incredible sources for this. We've got a fascinating academic paper called The Commodification of Tranquility.
Love that title.
It's so good. We also have cultural reporting from The Guardian, entertainment news from the Mary Sue, and direct insights from the child-free community itself.
So a really broad spectrum of perspectives.
Exactly. We are going to look at why this one ruined Friday night, basically broke the internet's brain. And, more importantly, what it reveals about the collision between modern consumer expectations, the digital outrage machine, and this really fiery societal debate over who actually gets to exist in shared spaces.
And just to set the tone for everyone listening as we navigate this, our role today is purely to act as your guides.
Yes, very important point.
The sources we're synthesizing, they contain some intensely polarized viewpoints on this whole kids in public spaces debate.
Very polarized.
Right. So we are just here to impartially map out those perspectives and explain the underlying mechanics of this cultural friction. We aren't taking sides on whether Jessica or the internet was right or, whether kids should be banned from places. We just want to explore the anatomy of the outrage itself.
Exactly. We're just looking at the machinery of it all. So let's start with the timeline and the geography. Because the physical reality of the resort is just central to everything that follows.
Okay, set the scene for us.
Based on the reporting, Jessica Jean was vacationing in San Diego with her boyfriend. And on this specific Friday night, he was heading out to a concert.
Okay, so she's flying solo for the evening.
Right. She opted out of the show, but she asked if they could book a significantly more expensive hotel than their usual budget allowed.
Okay, so a deliberate financial upgrade.
Yes. And her stated motivation was to have a solo, relaxing evening utilizing a very specific premium amenity, the rooftop pool and jacuzzi.
See, that motivation completely frames the consumer expectation here. She wasn't simply booking a place to sleep, right? She was purchasing a curated experience.
Exactly.
And when she first arrived at the pool, The environment actually delivered on that promise.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, the sources indicate there were already families with children in the broader pool area when she got there, but their presence was ambient. It was just passive background noise.
So she wasn't mad about kids just existing.
Not at all. She was coexisting peacefully. She even told nearby parents that, a little splashing from their kids was totally fine.
Okay, so the disruption wasn't the mere presence of children, it was the spatial shift.
Precisely.
That massive group, she estimated 40 kids, enters the area. And the dynamic goes from ambient noise to a physical intrusion. The children started actually crowding into the hot tub itself.
And this is where it gets complicated.
Yeah, because if you are listening to this and you're a parent, you might be thinking, well, it's a pool, kids splash.
Sure, that's what kids do.
Right. But we have to look at the psychological shift here. She went from occupying a space of, curated solitude to being physically bumped and jostled in a confined body of water.
And water amplifies that intrusion so much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. In a hotel lobby, you can just look away from a crowd.
Or put headphones in?
Exactly. But in a hot tub, the physical displacement of the water means every single time a child jumps in or kicks, you physically feel the impact.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, your sensory environment is entirely hijacked. You literally cannot ignore it.
But there is a detail in the source material that is absolutely fascinating to me, and I think it complicates the whole narrative.
What's that?
She wasn't alone in the hot tub when the invasion happened.
Oh, really? I missed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were other adults in the water, women who actually identified themselves to her as teachers. And they were casually chatting, completely unfazed by 40 children swarming the area.
Oh, wow.
Right. So if you are sitting in a shared space and every other adult around you is totally fine with the chaos, and you are the only one on the verge of tears, does that inherently mean you are the problem?
That is the exact psychological trap she fell into. And it's a brilliant example of what sociologists call social mirroring.
Social mirroring?
Yeah, according to the academic analysis in the commodification of tranquility, seeing those teachers remain calm induced a deep sense of alienation and self-doubt in her. She literally questioned her own sanity and her own tolerance levels.
Because everyone else was fine.
Right, but, and this is key, she also made a very definitive boundary choice in that moment. She explicitly stated, and this is a quote, "I'm not going to talk to these strangers' kids. They're not mine."
I mean, fair enough.
Absolutely. She recognized that regulating the behavior of 40 children was not her responsibility, nor was it the experience she paid for.
She basically refused to become an unpaid chaperone on her luxury vacation.
Exactly.
So her emotional bandwidth simply snapped, and she fled. She went back to her room in tears.
And the academic paper highlights a really poignant sensory detail about that retreat, which I found fascinating.
What was it?
Even after she locked her hotel room door, she could still hear the children screaming from the pool area through her window.
Oh, man. That's rough.
Right. The architectural reality of the hotel meant the auditory intrusion literally followed her to her room, cementing this feeling that her purchased experience was entirely inescapable and completely ruined.
So to really grasp the economic weight of that ruined experience, we have to look at the venue itself. The profile of her location aligns with places like the Kona Kai Resort and Spa down in San Diego.
Okay, so high end.
Very high end. This isn't some, roadside motel off the interstate. This property markets itself as an 11-acre tropical oasis. It has private beaches, a luxury spa, upscale dining.
On the whole package.
The whole package. And access to this oasis requires mandatory premium fees on top of the already high room rate.
Like resort fees.
Yeah, we're talking about a $48 a night resort fee plus another $48 parking fee.
Okay, so she is highly financially invested in the marketed illusion of tranquility here.
Exactly. Let's look at it like buying a first-class plane ticket.
Okay, I like this analogy.
You don't drop thousands of dollars on a first-class ticket for a red-eye flight just to get from New York to London, right? Yeah. You are buying the lay-flat bed. You are buying the ability to sleep.
The utility of the transport is secondary to the comfort.
Right. So if you board the plane and the seat is broken and won't recline, you are going to be furious. You receive the transportation, sure, but you were completely denied the specific curated experience you financed.
That's a perfect parallel.
That is the fundamental breach of contract she experienced in that hot tub. She got the hotel room, but the lay-flat bed, the hot tub, was broken.
That analogy perfectly isolates the gap between the physical object and the souled experience, which, honestly, introduces a massive problem for the hospitality industry.
How so?
Well, how does a hotel management team respond when a guest complains about a ruined vibe rather than, like a broken television.
Right, they have a protocol for a broken TV. They can just swap it out.
Exactly, but we actually have the exact transcript of how they responded to this because she detailed her 90-second phone call to the front desk.
Oh, right, the phone call.
And it's crucial to note her tone here. The sources point out she was crying, but she explicitly told the staff, the kids aren't doing anything wrong, like they're just kids.
So she wasn't asking for them to be kicked out.
Not at all. She wasn't demanding the children be punished or yelled at or banned from the pool.
The front desk staff, however, they operated through the lens of what sociologists call institutional friction.
Right.
The hotel is this massive, clunky machine, and the staff really only have a few predefined levers they can pull to fix a guest's problem.
The standard operating procedures.
Exactly. So when she complained about the hot tub vibe, they offered to move her room to a quieter floor or, upgrade her sleeping arrangements.
Which is such a wild misdiagnosis of the problem.
It totally misses the mark.
An upgraded mattress on the 4th floor does absolutely nothing to fix the fact that she can't use the rooftop hot tub she specifically traveled there for.
But the hotel is trapped in a paradox of its own making here. Let's look at the mechanics of modern luxury marketing. They are selling what the academic paper calls a green screen of isolation.
A green screen?
Yeah. In their brochures, the pool is always empty except for maybe one attractive couple holding cocktails.
Right, bathed in golden hour light.
Exactly. They are selling exclusive tranquility. But the physical, operational reality of the hotel is entirely democratic.
Meaning anyone who pays can use it.
Right. Any family who swiped their credit card for that exact same $48 resort fee has equal right to occupy that pool. The hotel staff physically cannot enforce the tranquility they sold her without alienating the families, who represent a massive, incredibly lucrative demographic.
So the institution physically cannot deliver on its own marketing.
Bingo. So Jessica declined the room move. She told them she didn't care about the noise in her room. She cared about the unusable amenity.
Which makes sense.
And she actually suggested a much more nuanced solution in her follow-up. She didn't demand a massive refund. She didn't want housekeeping to have to clean a second room for her.
What did she want?
She simply noted that the resort had, 3 bars and a full room service menu. She felt a small gesture of goodwill, like a complimentary drink or a free dessert, would have been a fair acknowledgement of the situation.
And you know what? That's a completely rational consumer negotiation.
I think so, too.
She was basically just asking for an emotional acknowledgement of a failed service delivery. A free dessert costs the hotel perhaps, $4 in food costs?
Yeah, basically nothing.
But it repairs the psychological breach of contract for the guest.
But as we know, the internet doesn't do rational consumer negotiations.
Oh, definitely not.
9 minutes after she left that pool, the 90-second reality of her phone call hit the TikTok algorithm.
And that's when everything explodes.
Boom. The actual facts of the situation were instantly incinerated to make way for a much juicier, highly malicious fiction. The video hit 3.7 million views, and the vitriol was just suffocating.
It's hard to even comprehend that scale of anger over a hot tub.
It really is. Commenters diagnosed her as needing intense psychiatric therapy. They weaponized the term Disney adult against her, basically framing her as an overgrown toddler throwing a tantrum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and people were aggressively demanding that her partner leave her over this. The internet collectively hallucinated a marriage, upgrading her boyfriend to a husband just so they could demand he file for divorce.
That is genuinely unhinged.
It is.
But, the speed at which digital platforms strip away spatial nuance is terrifying. The entertainment reporting from the Mary Sue, they highlighted a very specific copy-pasted comment format that completely dominated the discourse.
What was the comment?
People kept writing. So you went to a public place and the public is there, with 3 question marks.
Yes, I saw that argument everywhere when I was looking through the sources. But it is a massive false equivalence.
Exactly.
You do not hand a concierge a $50 daily resort fee just to sit on a city park bench.
Right. The internet critics were deliberately conflating a truly open, civic, public space, like a municipal beach or a town square, which belongs to everyone for free, with a premium-priced, semi-private resort amenity that explicitly requires capital to access.
They erased the financial transaction entirely to make her look entitled.
I completely removed the context.
But I think the most bizarre mechanism of this entire outrage cycle was the Great Wolf Lodge myth.
Oh, we have to talk about that.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
The internet collectively decided and viciously defended the idea that Jessica was staying at Great Wolf Lodge.
The implication being that she went to a hyper-commercialized, heavily branded children's water park and was somehow shocked to find children there.
Right. It's the equivalent of walking into a Chuck E. Cheese on a Saturday afternoon and screaming at the manager because the flashing lights of the skee-ball machine are ruining your quiet, contemplative glass of Pinot Noir.
Which would be ridiculous.
If she had actually been at Great Wolf's Lodge, the internet's reaction would have been completely justified. She would be genuinely unhinged.
But she wasn't.
She wasn't. There isn't even a Great Wolf Lodge in the entire city of San Diego. She explicitly debunked this in her own comments, but the truth had absolutely no traction.
And because the truth wasn't fun. And the academic paper spends a significant amount of time analyzing exactly why this specific geographic lie stuck.
Why did it?
It comes down to the mechanics of cognitive dissonance and algorithmic reward. The algorithm pushes content that generates the highest emotional arousal, specifically rage.
Rage engagement.
Right. But for human beings to comfortably unleash that level of profound rage on a total stranger, we need a perfect villain.
You need to feel justified.
Exactly. The actual reality, a woman at an upscale, mixed-use coastal resort having a minor customer service dispute, is way too nuanced. It requires thought. It requires empathy.
It's boring.
It's boring. Great Wolf Lodge, on the other hand, provides a simplified, polarizing narrative. The users essentially hallucinated a detail that validated their own anger.
We even saw the real-time mutation of her own words in the sources. We looked at a transcript from a YouTube commentary channel called It's Blanco.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
This video claims she was a 33-year-old acting immature and demanding free drinks from all the bars.
Which is not what happened.
Not at all. They took her later, very calm reflection, that offering a complimentary drink would have been a nice gesture of hospitality, and they warped it into a narrative where she is aggressively harassing bartenders and throwing a drunken tantrum in the lobby.
The facts just continually morph to serve the caricature. But, we have to ask ourselves, why was the internet so primed to attack her in the first place?
It's a great question.
This well of vitriol didn't just materialize out of nowhere. It tapped into a massive global fault line regarding spatial politics. The fundamental question driving all of this anger is actually really profound. Who does shared spaces actually belong to?
And to really understand the sheer scale of that tension, we have to look globally. We can't just look at the American internet.
Right, this is everywhere.
Emma Beddington wrote a brilliant piece for The Guardian that takes us out of San Diego and into the European railway system.
Okay, shifting gears.
She details a recent initiative by SNCF, which is the French National Railway Company.
Right.
SNCF attempted to roll out what they called optimum carriages. These were marketed specifically as adults-only spaces on their trains. The idea was a civilized, quiet environment where executives or solo travelers could work without dealing with screaming toddlers or, iPads blasting cartoons at max volume.
I feel like a lot of people listening are nodding their heads right now saying, yes, please.
Oh, for sure. But the cultural backlash in France was immediate, and it was fascinating.
It got political, right?
Very. Sarah El-Hiri, who serves as the French High Commissioner for Children, publicly condemned the optimum carriages as shocking. The political pressure became so intense that SNCF had to rapidly backtrack. They diluted the whole concept to just a no under 12s policy.
Wow.
But the most revealing part of the story was SNCF's defense of the program. A company spokesperson plainly admitted they were not pulling this idea out of thin air. They had been resisting massive coordinated customer pressure for years to create child-free zones.
Which really proves this isn't just one annoyed woman in a hot tub in San Diego. It is a systemic societal squeeze.
Yes.
We're witnessing a slow, quiet eradication of children and teenagers from the public realm. The Guardian article cites data showing that shopping malls across Michigan are actively banning unaccompanied teenagers, citing fears of quote-unquote horseplay and shouting.
Just normal teen behavior.
Exactly. Major urban centers like Chicago and Washington, D.C. are enforcing strict youth curfews. There are even fast food franchises now demanding that anyone under 18 be accompanied by a 21-year-old chaperone just to order a hamburger.
That is wild. You can't even get fries with your friends anymore.
We are literally designing young people out of our communities. And Emma Beddington anchors her piece in a very strong pro-community argument against this trend.
What's her stance?
She readily admits she is highly noise-sensitive herself, but she draws a hard ethical line against banning children from shared life.
She has this fantastic mantra she uses when she is stuck on a loud train. I loved this part of the
Oh,
source.
the inconvenience quote.
Yes. She tells herself, inconvenience is the price of community.
It's such a good line.
It is. Her argument is that a functional society inherently requires friction. Kids are loud, they totally lack spatial awareness, and that they're usually sticky.
Very sticky.
But every single adult demanding a quiet train car was once a loud, inconsiderate toddler themselves.
Right. Beddington's thesis is that nobody, no matter how much money they paid for their ticket or their hotel, is entitled to a perfectly silent, frictionless passage through a shared world.
But let's interrogate that for a moment. Let's push back on Beddington a bit.
Okay, let's do it.
Because if you look at the demographic data coming out of Europe, particularly France, deaths are actually starting to outstrip births. We are staring down the barrel of a global birth rate collapse.
Which is a huge concern right now.
So if the survival of our economic systems relies on the next generation keeping the lights on, shouldn't society be rolling out the red carpet for families? Why is the immediate instinct to hide children away just so a mid-level executive can stare at a spreadsheet without hearing a baby cry?
That tension is exactly what James Noble addresses. He's the co-founder of the We Are Child-Free movement.
Okay, what does he say?
In his analysis, which we reviewed for this deep dive, he brings up a critical cultural comparison regarding atomization.
Atomization, like social isolation.
Yeah. Noble spends significant time in Greece, and he observes that Greek culture still heavily leans on intergenerational living. The whole concept of the village raising the child is actively practiced there.
It's not just a cliche.
Right. Because children are deeply integrated into the daily fabric of the entire community, restaurants, plazas, late at night. There is a much higher baseline tolerance for the noise and chaos of other people's children.
But in the US or the UK, that village has been completely paved over.
Precisely. In highly atomized, hyper-individualized societies, that community safety net is just gone. Parenting has become this isolated, incredibly high-stakes performance.
And everyone is judging you.
Yes. Noble argues that in these cultures, parents are brutally policing each other, and non-parents are fiercely guarding their own peace. When you remove the communal bond, every interaction in a public space becomes an adversarial transaction.
That makes so much sense.
The instinct isn't to walk over and help the mom with the screaming toddler. The instinct is to build a wall, demand a segregated space, and isolate yourself.
But, that framing assumes that the desire for child-free spaces is purely reactionary, like it's just about escaping annoying parents.
Right.
What about the people who actively, intentionally opt out of the parenting ecosystem entirely? We aren't just talking about annoyed executives on trains here. There is a massive, varied demographic of people living child-free lives. Are we saying their desire for tailored spaces is somehow invalid?
The data suggests their desires are not only valid, but they actually represent a massive economic force. According to the statistics Noble cites, 20 to 25% of the adult population are non-parents.
That's a quarter of the population.
Exactly. And referring back to those French railway surveys, a staggering 54% of the general public stated they actively want more adults-only spaces.
Over half.
Yeah, this is not a fringe minority. It's a dominant consumer bloc.
So to understand who actually makes up that block, we looked at content from a YouTube creator named Kelsey from the channel Diary of the Child Free.
She had some really good insights.
She did. She completely dismantles the lazy stereotype that child-free people are just like bitter curmudgeons who sit around hating children.
Right, like cartoon villains.
Yeah, that caricature is aggressively reductive.
It is. The psychological and physical need for these spaces is deeply complex. Noble points out that adults-only hospitality isn't some cruel new invention either. Resorts have successfully operated this way since the 1970s.
It's an established industry.
Yeah, they make up a stable 3 to 5% of the French tourism market alone. But look at who actually relies on these spaces.
Who are they?
They are vital havens for neurodivergent individuals who experience severe sensory overload and physically cannot process the high-decibel, unpredictable acoustic environment that 40 splashing children create.
Which is a completely valid medical need for quiet.
Absolutely. They're also crucial sanctuaries for individuals actively grieving miscarriages or navigating the trauma of infertility, for whom being surrounded by happy families is a source of acute, unbearable pain.
Wow. I hadn't even thought of that aspect, but that is so profound. Kelsey also highlights the cultural exhaustion of living in what she terms an aggressively pro-birth and pro-motherhood society.
How does she define that?
Well, if you make the non-traditional choice to not have children, society frequently casts you as an antagonist. You face constant interrogation at family dinners, systemic stigma in the workplace, and just intense isolation.
People assume something is wrong with you.
Exactly. So finding a space dedicated to your lifestyle isn't about hating outsiders, it is an act of self-preservation.
And that desire for preservation is driving a massive boom in real-world community building. The digital spaces are translating into physical action now.
The examples in the sources are incredible. A creator named Dana organized a child-free meetup at Disney.
Which is the ultimate subversion of expectations.
That's right.
Disney without kids.
But I know, it's brilliant. Marcella from Child Free Millennial was putting together a massive group trip to Greece, and Kristen and Erica from the Dinky Pod were organizing a child-free vacation to Switzerland.
They were actively seeking shared, tailored experiences where they do not have to justify their existence.
Think of it like going to a highly specific genre convention.
Like Comic-Con.
Yeah. You don't buy a ticket to a massive sci-fi Comic-Con because you have a burning, vindictive hatred for mainstream romantic comedies.
Right, you don't hate rom-coms, you just love sci-fi.
You go because you want to walk into a room where thousands of people speak your exact niche language. You want an environment where you don't have to explain the complex lore of your favorite show to an outsider. It's about finding a space where you are the default rather than the exception.
That perfectly encapsulates James Noble's economic synthesis on this. Creating and utilizing adults-only spaces is not a malicious act of banishing children from public life.
It's not an attack.
No, it is simply hospitality supply rising to meet a well-established, mathematically proven consumer demand. The conflict we see online doesn't happen because adults-only spaces exist. The conflict detonates when the demarcations are ambiguous.
When the lines are blurry.
Exactly. When a hotel aggressively markets the dream of an exclusive, adults-only sanctuary, but physically operates a democratic, loud, family-friendly pool, the collision is totally inevitable.
Which brings us right back to the rooftop in San Diego.
Full circle.
When we synthesize everything we've unpacked today, a 33-year-old woman crying in a hotel room isn't just a fleeting piece of algorithmic trash. It was the perfect storm.
It really was.
It was the catastrophic failure of a modern hospitality industry that sells the premium illusion of private tranquility inside a fundamentally shared democratic physical space.
A failure that was instantly fed into a digital outrage machine that literally requires a simplified villain. A machine that mutates facts and hallucinates entire water parks just to maximize engagement and validate societal anger.
And all of this is layered over a genuine, incredibly tense crisis about how human beings exist alongside each other. Are we still a community capable of accepting the sticky, loud, inconvenient reality of the next generation? Or have we become an atomized society of hyper-individualized consumers who genuinely believe our credit card payments entitle us to frictionless isolation?
Which leaves us with a critical concept to consider as we close. We are living in an era of unprecedented digital curation. You can instantly filter your newsfeed to only show opinions you agree with.
Yep.
You can curate your algorithms to serve you perfect, personalized entertainment. You can block any voice that slightly annoys you with one click.
It's total control.
But as we become accustomed to this frictionless digital isolation, our tolerance for the messy, unpredictable, and sometimes splashy reality of physical human community is rapidly dropping to zero.
We are expecting the physical world to come with an unsubscribe button.
Exactly the problem. If we continue to demand that our shared physical environments be as perfectly customizable, segregated, and quote-unquote annoyance-free as our smartphones, what actually happens to the concept of a shared society when the next generation is literally priced out of the pool?
That is a staggering and honestly terrifying question to walk away with. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. We hope exploring the mechanisms behind this viral moment gave you some new tools to see the bigger picture.
It's definitely a lot to think about.
The next time you see an internet mob forming over a seemingly simple misunderstanding or a tearful hotel review, maybe take a step back and look for the invisible societal friction sitting just beneath the surface. Until next time, keep questioning the consensus.